Chapter 1004. Luo Ten stood at the side and weakly asked, "Is it really so godly?" Shimiao did not care if it was godly or not. She felt that priest Shi Yin was very capable, and the things that he sent should be very precious. Even if it was as Luo Tan said, these were just two ordinary ropes, and this thing had a deep meaning to her. It was more memorable than those gold and silver. When Xie Jingxing heard it, he did not refuse anymore. Even though his eyes were still filled with disgust, he still allowed Shin Miao to put the red rope on his hand, and at the end he tied a knot with it. Luo Tan looked at it and bared her teeth. Xie Jingxing was a dignified man, the elegant and noble Prince Rue, but he was wearing such a thing on his hand. It was really not a beautiful picture. Forget about the femininity. The most important thing was that this red rope did not look very valuable. Compared to both of their brocade clothes, it really paled in comparison and was out of place. Shen Miao said, "It is done." Xie Jingxing quickly retracted his hand and quietly moved his sleeves inwards, trying to block the conspicuous red color. Luo Tan said, "All right, the things have been sent over, and seeing that you all seem to have something on, I will not disturb and leave first." Then he winked at Shen Miao and dragged out his voice. "Biao, youngest sister, is so good. I am relieved." He ran away like a wisp of smoke. Shen Miao, Xie Jingxing said, Go and watch the fireworks." The servants of Prince Rue residence. Song Yang softly asked Tai, "The one who is ill is foreign. Why does Master's brain seem to have a problem? Why are you looking at fireworks in broad daylight?" Tai expressionlessly handed the broom to him. "Sweep the floor." In Wei Yang Palace, Empress Yin was leaning on the couch reading a book. She was reading leisurely as she listened to the palace maids talking. Putting down the book in her hands, she said with some relief on her face, "It is good that nothing is wrong. These days there are so many incidents that Bin Gong had planned to burn incense and pray." The matter of Shen Miao being assassinated was hidden from outsiders, but it was not hidden from Emperor Yong Lu and Empress Yinda. Even Gao Yang was helpless, so the imperial physicians in the palace were even more helpless. Speaking of which, these days it was really strange. Incidents happened to the residents of Prince Rue, one after another. First it was Xie Jingxing. Xie Jingxing had just escaped a calamity, and now it happened to Shen Miao. Fortunately, now that Shen Miao had woken up, it made one's heart to be relieved. Empress Yinda put down the book. She was no longer in the mood to read. She stood up and walked to the window. It had rained last night, and today was a fine day. There was no trace of the gale from last night, except for the plum tree by the window, whose branches and leaves were blown to the ground by the wind and rain. She muttered to herself, "Long Yi is not peaceful either." The wind forebodes the coming storm. Ever since Xie Jingxing returned to the Great Liang, there had been 2 incidents in the residence of Prince Rue, and this was a kind of signal. Perhaps it was a warning or a counterattack, because Emperor Yong Lu had already begun to act against the Lu family. Tao Gugu was a female official by Empress Yinda's side. Ever since Empress Yinda was made Empress, she had been following by her side. After so many years, she was Empress Yinda's most loyal confidant. Tao Gugu said, "Today, Consort Jing went to the imperial study to look for His Majesty. When she went, her eyes were full of tears, and when she came out, it seemed that she was not in a good mood." The palace maids of Jinhua Palace said that after returning, Consort Jing punished a number of servants and smashed a lot of things. It seemed that her mood was not good. Empress Yinda smiled gently. The Lu family had suffered a loss and wanted to test His Majesty's attitude, so naturally they would start from Consort Jing. Did not Lu Foreign enter the palace to see Consort Jing a few days ago? His Majesty seemed to no longer have patience with Consort Jing. Tao Gugu said, "Consort Jing has been restraining herself a lot with you these few days. If His Majesty really take action against the Lu family on Consort Jing's end, what do you think? Leave it all to His Majesty to decide." Empress Yinda said lightly, "Whether it is sincere or fake in Ben Gong's eyes, one would not be able to see these clearly. Since I entered the palace in the beginning, I know these truths." She looked at Tao Gugu, who had a face full of worry, and smiled instead. You wouldn't think that Ben Gong would care about these things? Tao Gugu didn't speak. Empress Shinda looked outside again and said, ever since Ben Gong became the Empress, Ben Gong did not think of herself as a woman. The wife of an emperor is not a wife, but someone who will shoulder the world with him. Fortune and disaster depend on each other, life and death together. Ben Gong has never been afraid. Ben Gong is just slightly regretful. She looked at her stomach. Ben Gong was not able to give birth to my own child. In the past, if it wasn't for Consort Jing, Tao Gugu gritted her teeth, her tone filled with anger and unwillingness, and also the pain of not being resolved. Never mind. Empress Shinda tiredly waved her hand. She smiled, but that smile was somewhat numb and desolate. It's the same without Consort Jing. This child, Ben Gong, will not be able to give birth. She said softly, look at the Ho Gong, who gave birth to his child. None. It's impossible. So even though Ben Gong is regretful, all the women in the Ho Gong are regretful. Ben Gong's regret is not regret. At least, Ben Gong still has this position that cannot be shaken, she said. Chapter 1005. As the sun turned to the west, Shen Miao and Xie Jingxing were on their way back to the residence. The Great Liang was more open and free than Ming Qi, and it was a common thing for husband and wife to go out together. But because Xie Jingxing was too famous, almost everyone in Longyi knew him, and wherever he went, he would be surrounded by astonished gazes. Some days ago, there were rumors that Princess Rui and His Highness the Prince of First Rank appeared to be united, but were actually separated, and their relationship was as cold as ice. Now that both of them were traveling hand in hand, this rumor was dispelled. If it was really like the rumors that both of them were unfamiliar with each other, why would they travel so intimately? One did not know which family's mouth was speaking nonsense. Ever since Shen Miao came to Longyi, this was the first time she came out for a stroll. Xie Jingxing was very familiar with this place and bought as she walked. She was not a greedy person, but today it was as if she was affected by Luo Tan as she bought a carriage full of big and small things. Both of them bought in front, while Tai Yi and Song Yang paid at the back. Even so, Xie Jingxing still felt that Shen Miao was somewhat strange and looked suspiciously at her from time to time along the way. Shen Miao, however, felt that her mood was unprecedentedly relaxed. It was as if, after that dream, all the unwillingness, resentment, anger, and hatred in her previous lifetime had been unraveled. Vengeance was still needed. However, in this new life, it wasn't just about vengeance. Those stars that shone in the dark years made her feel that there were not only bad things left behind in her previous lifetime. For this new life, it was even more precious. The current her was braver, more determined, and more frank than before. They could face their feelings openly, and they could also passionately embrace a brand new life. After all, this her was a completely different person from that one. She was in such a relaxed mood and had a smile on her face from the beginning to the end. Like a child looking at these things with novel eyes, she even said to Xie Jingxing, Longyi and Ding Capital are indeed different. One think that the various places in the Great Liang have their own customs. If there is a day that one is able to travel to famous mountains and great rivers and see different sceneries, that would be good. Xie Jingxing smiled. What is so difficult about that? It is easier to say than to do. Shen Miao said, sometimes one is envious of those uncultivated people in the pugilistic world. They are carefree and without any worldly affairs and live a very exciting life. Xie Jingxing looked at her thoughtfully. Shen Miao said, why are you looking at me? His lips hooked up as he held Shen Miao's hands and smiled. After the matters of Ming Qi and the Great Liang are settled, I will bring you to wherever you want to go. Shen Miao smiled at him. This is you returning my wish. Xie Jingxing was slightly stunned. Thinking of the wish that Shen Miao had mentioned when she woke up, a malicious smile suddenly appeared on his face. He hooked his lips and said, you have been reminding me of that wish today. Is it because 2 months have passed and you really want to? Shen Miao turned and walked away. I am not thinking about anything. Song Yang and Tai Yi followed behind. Song Yang's expression was awkward. and Taiyi's tanned face was flushed red. The two of them could not bear to watch. It was naturally a good thing that the relationship between the masters was good, but to let the two of them serve in front of him was simply abuse. He might as well go guard the tower prison. When the moon gradually rose, there were fewer people on the streets. Shen Miao and Xie Jingxing had also strolled for a day and felt somewhat tired. It was rare for her to be in high spirits today, so Xie Jingxing accompanied her. Seeing that both of them had returned with a composed expression, Jingzhou and Guyu then gave a sigh of relief. Xie Jingxing wanted to bathe, and Shen Miao also returned to her own room. Jingzhou had already helped her to prepare the hot water and said, "Foreign should go bathe first. The small kitchen has already prepared a meal, and one can eat it after a while. Most likely one is tired after a day outside." Chapter 1006. Shen Miao complied. The bath water was very warm, and it was so comfortable that it made one drowsy and sleepy. She lay on the bed, and Guyu was attending to her side as she said, "This servant has not seen Foreign smile like this for a long time." Shen Miao recovered to her senses. In fact, she often smiled. It was probably because she had stayed in the harem for a long time in her previous life that she understood the principle of not losing even if she lost. No matter how gloomy the road ahead was or how disadvantageous the situation was for her, she would subconsciously put on a smile first. When the enemies saw your smile, they would not be able to figure out what you were thinking in your heart. Even if one could not confuse the enemy, it was also good to discuss the other party. Since her rebirth, she was used to this kind of appearance, but that smile was subconsciously brought out and was not sincere. How could it be the same with a smile that came from the heart? Now her eyes were curved as if they were filled with slight satisfaction. Like a warm jade, it made her delicate and beautiful face look even more charming, making one unable to move their eyes away. Jingzhou noticed the red string on Shen Miao's wrist. When Luo Tan gave Shen Miao the red string, Jingzhou did not know about it. Thus, when she saw it now, she was very curious. "Foreign, is this red string newly bought from the streets? It is somewhat unique, but it does not match well with the clothes." Guyu also saw it and smiled. Previously, Puthal Monastery sold this kind of red string. 1 copper coin for 5 strings, and said that it can be used to pray for marriage. Jingzhou smiled. 5 marriages only worth 1 copper coin. Is really too cheap. She also felt somewhat strange. Does not Foreign not believe in these things the most? Why did you buy it? But speaking of which, if His Highness saw this string, one feared that he would not be happy and would think that Foreign is already a Qin Wang Fei, so what marriage is there to pray for? Jingzhou had a lively temperament, and at this moment she imitated Xie Jingxing's unhappy expression to speak, making Shen Miao and Guyu laugh out loud. Guyu laughed and scolded, "Mischievous ghost. Is His Highness someone that you can make fun of?" Shen Miao waved her hands and said, "Later let people place the dishes in Xie Jingxing's room." Both of them had always slept in separate rooms, as Xie Jingxing had his own bedroom. Jingzhou was surprised for a moment before smiling. Foreign wants to eat with His Highness. She could not help but feel happy for Shen Miao. These maids saw that Shen Miao and Xie Jingxing slept in separate rooms, but did not know how to persuade them. Who would have thought that after this calamity, their relationship would advance by leaps and bounds? It was a blessing in disguise. Shen Miao said, "This rope is very agile." Guyu looked at Shen Miao in surprise, as she did not know why she would suddenly say such words. Shen Miao looked at the rope and sighed softly. But this time, her eyes were relaxed. This day was bound to come. Unlike the previous times when she was worried about gains and losses, this time she was fully prepared. Everything in this life was different from her previous life, including people and things. Therefore, she was still full of expectations for the future, but she would not bet all her future on one person. Grow by yourself, become someone who could stand shoulder to shoulder with the person you love, become equally powerful, protect the things you want to protect, and understand the feud you should understand. It was that simple. She let Jingzhou bring a handkerchief and said, "Help me to twist my hair." Xie Jingxing put on his inner clothes and walked out. He had bathed for a long time, and the water was somewhat cold. When he was alone, there was no lazy smile on his face, but rather a somewhat cold expression that could not be seen clearly in the night. He was actually not a very passionate person, and under his cynical appearance, there was only a disdain towards the affairs of the world. Chapter 1007. When he went out, he saw a few exquisite dishes and snacks in the middle of the room. Xie Jingxing frowned. He was not used to eating in the room, as he was a person who loved cleanliness and was very orderly in private. The bedroom was a place to sleep, and meals must be eaten in the hall. After calling out a few times, there was no response. Suddenly the door opened, and it was Shun Miao carrying a wine jar in. That wine jar was very big, and she was swaying as she carried it. Xie Jingxing went forward to catch it and placed it on the table before asking, "What are you doing?" Shun Miao said, "I searched for a long time in your storeroom and found this jar. After smelling it, I estimated that it was 10 provinces incense and estimated that it was quite old, so I carried it out." Xie Jingxing paused and opened the wine jar. Indeed, a mellow and sweet smell of the wine hit his face. He smiled instead. "Amazing. You also know about 10 provinces incense, and Uncle Tang actually did not stop you? 10 provinces incense was a top-quality wine, and there was a price but no market. Even if one had more money, it would be hard to buy. There were only 3 jars in the entire residence of Prince Rue, and Shun Miao carried 1 jar. Coincidentally, this jar was 50 years old. One feared that Uncle Tang would cry silently with heartache. Shun Miao smiled. "I have drunk it before." Xie Jingxing was suspicious. Drunk it before? Shun Miao did not speak anymore. When she was the Empress, what kind of good wine had she not drunk in the palace banquets? Even though a jar of 10 provinces incense was precious, it was not to the extent that she would look at it differently. But one did not know that she had been the Empress before and was dazzled by the dazzling lineup of things in the palace. Even if she looked at it again, she would not care about it. But in an ordinary family, even in an official's family, some officials would not have the chance to drink a mouthful of 10 provinces incense in their entire life. Shun Miao patted her head. Seems to have forgotten to bring the wine cup. Her eyes glanced at the bowls that were used to hold the rice, and simply scooped 2 bowls full. Xie Jingxing looked at her incredulously and asked, "Shun Miao, are you an alcoholic? I will accompany you to eat." Shun Miao said, "How can there be no wine when there are dishes?" Xie Jingxing crossed his arms and looked at her for a while. Suddenly, he remembered something and said, "If you didn't mention it, I almost forgot. That day at Azure Heaven Restaurant, you drank a bowl of wine in front of so many people. Shun Jiaojiao, you have to be careful in the future." When she was drinking, she was tender and charming, elegant and heroic. That moment of amorous feelings made others unable to take their eyes off her. Many of the men in by Xiao Lu's eyes were glued to her body, and at that time, Xie Jingxing was very angry. If he did not care about his identity, he would have carried Shun Miao on his body and left. He patiently instructed his wife, "In the future, don't drink outside. If you want to drink, you must have me present. Even if I'm present, you can't drink too much, especially not in front of other people." "Shun Jiaojiao, are you listening to me?" Shun Miao put down the bowl, and she had just swallowed a big mouthful of 10 provinces fragrance. The fragrance of the wine was sweet, but when it entered her throat, it was so spicy that tears almost came out. As soon as she swallowed it, she felt warm and refreshed. She exclaimed in admiration, "It's worthy of being called the 10 prefectures fragrance." Xie Jingxing said, "Are you ignoring me now?" Shun Miao glanced at him. "You are not drinking?" Then she picked up the bowl and drank another mouthful. Xie Jingxing said, "Hey, are you going to be a drunkard here tonight and drink till you're dead drunk? The 10 prefectures fragrance should not be drunk like you. You are like a cow chewing on peonies." Shun Miao glanced at him. "No one dared to say that I am a cow chewing on peonies." Xie Jingxing. He always felt that every time Shun Miao finished drinking, she would be like a different person. For example, many years ago, when the Shun family left the Ding capital and he headed to the northern Jiang, could it be that there was a person living in Shun Miao's stomach, and as long as she drank, that person would be released? Xie Jingxing was really puzzled after much thought. Normally, she looked like a restrained and cautious person, but once drunk, not to mention that she would not be rational, she would do unimaginable things. Chapter 1008. One felt that the heroic spirit of the Shun family could only be reflected in Shun Miao after she had drunk wine. The reason why 10 Provinces incense was called 10 Provinces incense was because it was mellow, and the more mellow it was, the stronger it was. Shun Miao handed that big bowl of wine to Xie Jingxing and said, "You also drink." Xie Jingxing looked at her inexplicably, but Shun Miao stubbornly stretched out her hand. He could only sit down in front of the table and took that night's wine before slowly sipping it. Shun Miao looked at him. When Xie Jingxing drank, he was indeed not like a cow chewing on peonies like her, but he was also not genteel and careful, but had a kind of unrestrained heroism. As she watched, she picked up the bowl and gulped it down in one go. Xie Jingxing only drank a few mouthfuls when he saw Shun Miao turning the bowl upside down and wiping her mouth, just like how Shen Xian was drinking with the soldiers in the tent. He said, "You have finished drinking?" Shun Miao lightly coughed twice. "I have something to tell you." Xie Jingxing swept a glance at her and then looked at the bright amber wine in his bowl. "You need to drink before you dare to speak to me. Did you make a mistake behind my back? Previously, did you not ask me what is my secret?" Shun Miao said, "There is no need to use your secret to exchange. I will tell you." Xie Jingxing's action of holding the wine bowl paused and looked up at her. "Do you want to hear?" She still asked him. Xie Jingxing put down the wine bowl and said, "Why do I hear that you want to set a trap for me? Then I will take it that you want to know, and I will tell you." Shun Miao ignored his words and spoke on her own. "Do you feel that ever since you knew me, it was very strange? The things that I said to Su Minglang, and also the matter with Prince Yu. It seemed that the existence of the Fengxian pawn shop was long known, and also the second and third household of the Shun family. You still find it strange why I always targeted Prince Ding. It was obvious that before that I was in love with Prince Ding, so it is not justifiable if love turned into hatred." One by one, she said all the things that Xie Jingxing was suspicious of. Shun Miao said, "In the beginning, you must have been wary of me, so you ordered people to investigate me in private." Xie Jingxing's face showed some uneasiness. Obviously, it was like what Shun Miao said. He had ordered people to investigate Shun Miao's background. "You must not have found out anything. You still think that there is someone with great means behind me. Or perhaps it is because there is someone behind the Shun family." Xie Jingxing was silent. Ji Yushu's Fengxian pawn shop was able to find out many unknown secrets. But to Shun Miao, it was like a stone without an exit, and no matter how one tried, one could not find any place to start. "Although you can't find out anything about me, you must have investigated everything I've experienced over the years. You should also know that before my father and mother returned to the Ding capital at the end of the 68th year of Ming Qi, I once fell into the water because of Prince Ding. Ever since I fell into the water, my personality seemed to have changed a little. For example, I used to be infatuated with Prince Ding, but after that, I no longer showed any feelings towards Prince Ding." A hint of displeasure flashed across Xie Jingxing's eyes. Regarding the matter of Shun Miao being in love with Fu Xiu Yi, it really puzzled him. If it was not that the entire city knew about it, he would almost think that it was Shun Miao's act. In terms of looks, talent, or status, even though Fu Xiu Yi was outstanding, he was not at the top of the world. Shun Miao could actually love Fu Xiu Yi to the point of being infatuated, which made him speechless and also made him feel somewhat humiliated. No matter what, to compare him with Fu Xiu Yi, that kind of hypocritical fellow, it really made him lower his value. Chapter 1009. After that time I fell into the water, I started to feel estranged from the second and third household of the Shun family and was not as friendly to Shun Qing and Shun Yu as before, to the extent that I would go against old Shun for it. Shun Miao said, "Do you find it strange?" Xie Jingxing said, "There will always be a time when one is awake." Previously, Shun Miao was confused, but that was because she was young, and when she was confused to a certain point, perhaps one would know the truth from a certain matter or something else. Thus one could grow up overnight. Just like himself. Shun Miao shook her head. Then I was too thoroughly awake. Actually, it is very simple. I fell into the water in the 68th year of Ming Qi and was lying on the sickbed, unable to wake up for a long time. I had a very long dream. She looked at the flickering light on the table, and her eyes gradually had a misty look. That dream was very long and serious, as if I had personally experienced it. Can you believe that kind of dream? Shun Miao smiled. It was like a prophecy. Xie Jingxing gradually frowned, and his gaze on Shun Miao became sharp. It was rumored that there was once a governor of the southern country who was sitting under a tree and dozed off. He dreamt that he was an emperor, and for being surrounded by flowers to dying in the mud, he lived a long life. When he suddenly woke up, he discovered that it was only for a moment, and that everything in that dream was just a golden millet dream. It was just that it was real, thus one could not differentiate if that dream was real or if reality was real. This dream of mine was even longer and more bitter than the governor of the southern country in the story. I dreamt of the future. She said, I dreamt that I finally married into the residence of Prince Ding, and the Shun family was tied together with the residence of Prince Ding. I dreamt that there would be disputes in the court, turmoil among the princes, and princes would fight for the throne, and at the end Fu Xiu, he would be the winner. He ascended the throne, and I would be the Empress, being the mother of the world, and it was very glorious. Xie Jingxing's eyebrows raised. You most likely think that this is a beautiful dream of mine because I was infatuated with Fu Xiu Yi, so the dream had such a happy ending. I also hope that this is a beautiful dream, but it was the most terrible nightmare that I have ever had in my life. I gave birth to a son and a daughter, and they were the most sensible and adorable children in the world. Afterwards, the great Liang's power became stronger, and there were foreign invasions in Ming Qi. Ming Qi borrowed troops from the Qin country, and the Qin country used me as a hostage to stay in the Qin country for 5 years. I met Huangfu Hao and Ming, and Xie Jingxing's expression gradually became serious. I don't like the royal family of the Qin kingdom. They always humiliate me. They invented a kind of shooting on foot. They let me hold a fruit on my head, but they always deliberately miss. Afterwards, I secretly practiced archery, but no matter how well I practiced, I couldn't hit them the next day. 5 years passed quickly, and I returned to Ming Qi. There is an additional favored concubine in the Ding capital palace, called Mei Foreign. She gave birth to a son called Fu Shang. Fu Xiui dotes on Mei Foreign and dotes on Fu Shang. I was left out in the cold. Even though I was the Empress, I was laughed at in secret. Fu Xiu started to attack the Shun family, and even though I'm anxious, I am unable to interfere in politics. My eldest brother's career was ruined because he tarnished Jing Chu-Chu's innocence and was imprisoned because of murder. Finally, he became disabled and drowned in the pond. My mother's illness worsened because of Song Zai Qing and died of depression. My father was getting old day by day. His military power was taken away, and he drank all day. The second and third household rose up step by step and gained more power. Mei Foreign and I fought in the inner palace, and no one could spare the other. It was not that I coveted the position of Empress, but if I could not even keep this position, I would not be able to keep my own children. At the end, I was defeated, and the Shun family perished. Wan Yu died of illness on the way to the Xiongnu, and Fu Ming also committed suicide after he was deposed from the crown prince position. I was given a white silk in the cold palace, and the eunuchs personally strangled me to death. I opened my eyes and found myself lying on the bed. It turned out that I had a very long nightmare. Chapter 10:10. She lightly narrated this shocking dream, but there was a smile on her face. This smile was somewhat misty, as if it contained endless suffering, but the suffering could not be spoken out, so one might as well use a smile to replace it. Xie Jingxing did not speak. After she was drunk, she would always call herself Ben Gong, and Xie Jingxing would always laugh at her young age for scheming so deep. Occasionally, he would also feel strange as to why in her dreams she would always be a neglected and crippled empress. So it was Shun Miao said, "Do you believe in this dream of mine?" Xie Jingxing asked back, "Do you believe?" Shun Miao laughed. "If I do not believe, one fear that standing in front of you today would only be a grave. After I woke up, I was afraid that everything in this dream would happen and lived according to the rules, trying to find some clues to prove that it was just a nightmare. However, the more seriously I pursued, the more I discovered that it was not just a dream. Those things in the dream were happening one by one. I reminded Su Minglang because the Su family would be destroyed not long after because of the emperor's fear. Everyone in the Su family would be beheaded, and only you went to collect the corpses of the father and son. After the Su family, it would be the Shun family's turn. I was only trying to protect myself, so I went to remind the Su family, but did not want to be discovered by you." At that time, Xie Jingxing had doubts about her because of Su Minglang's words and repeatedly probed. Both of them clashed many times, but were unable to understand each other's thoughts. "Then in that dream of yours, what was my ending?" Xie Jingxing stared at her and asked. Shun Miao said, "You are very good." The Xie family gradually declined, and the Marquis of Lin and died in battle. You replaced your father to fight again, and one heard that you were buried on the battlefield, but after many years, you returned to Ming Qi with the identity of Prince Rui. Shun Miao smiled gently. Then you led the troops and horses to overthrow the imperial power. Xie Jingxing frowned. Just like that. Just like that. Shun Miao nodded her head. Like that. He raised his eyebrows. I thought that in your dream, you and I would have some involvement. You're treating it as a dream, aren't you? Or perhaps they thought that I was drunk and was talking nonsense. Shun Miao's eyes dimmed and said, "But this is also very good. I would rather it was just a dream. You may not believe some things when I say it, but I did indeed dream of Jing Chu Chu, Chong Zhaoqing, and the rest. I had never seen them before. Because of a nightmare, I had been wary of them even before that. Now that I think about it, a lot of things were only possible because of that dream." Xie Jingxing looked at her and smiled. That smile was gentle and comforting. "You did very well. Let bygones be bygones. In any case, I tried my best to avoid the ending of the dream. But one thing is the two children in the dream are gone." Xie Jingxing's fingers that were rubbing the wine bowl paused for a moment before saying, "We will also have children." Shun Miao took a deep breath and looked at him. "Now you have to listen clearly to what I'm going to say. In that dream, Mei Foreign, who fought with me for a lifetime, the consort mother of the new crown prince, and finally the woman who almost controlled the court's politics, was called Li Mei. She was the daughter of an official that Fu Xiui met during the Eastern expedition. She was gentle and charming and good at reading people's hearts. Now I see her again. Do you find it strange that when you came out from the imperial hunting grounds, I treated you coldly after I woke up, because at that time I was very flustered? I saw Li Mei again. She is now called Yi Mei. Do you understand what I mean by saying it like this?" she asked. Xie Jingxing did not speak for a long time. One did not know how much time had passed before he looked at Shun Miao. "She is the enemy in your dream?" "I hated her to the bones for my entire life, but was unable to kill the enemy with my own hands. Meeting again in this lifetime, she had become the daughter that the Long Yi family had found." Xie Jingxing, "I can endure my hatred, but there is one point. Yi Mei is not a good person, and for power, she can climb up by hook or by crook. She would not do unnecessary things. Since the residents of Prince Rui had accepted her kindness, it would definitely become a knife in her hands. You have to be wary of her." Xie Jingxing picked up the wine bowl again and drank all the wine in one gulp. Even though he was smiling, there was coldness in his eyes. "Yi Mei?" Fu Xiuyi's gaze towards females is as vulgar as always. I am different from him. No matter if your dream is real or not. Xie Jingxing said, "The hatred in the dream is also considered as hatred. Just based on the fact that he betrayed your intentions, it is unforgivable. Leave your hatred to me. I will help you take revenge." He interrupted the words that Shun Miao was about to say. "Do not say that you want to kill the enemy with your own hands. You are my woman, and your hatred is my hatred. In this world, the number of enemies that you and I have is uncountable, and there is no distinction between you and me. If one day you were to meet my enemy and you want to help me take revenge, then consider it as even. Shun Miao frowned. Do you have enemies? Who is it? Xie Jingxing looked at her for a while and suddenly reached out to rub her head. Why do you believe everything that is said? So cute. Presumptuous, Shun Miao said. When she was drunk, she habitually brought out the majesty of an empress. Xie Jingxing's actions paused, and Shun Miao was also surprised for a moment. He stared at Shun Miao. Do you still want to be an empress? I do not want to have that kind of dream a second time. Shun Miao said. I also do not want to be that kind of empress a second time, she said. Chapter 10:11. More than half of that jar of 10 prefectures spring ended up in Shun Miao's stomach. Xie Jingxing tried to stop it, but every time Shun Miao was stubborn. Even Shin Xin was helpless, not to mention Xie Jingxing. But this time she did not throw a drunken tantrum like before. After she finished the wine, her expression was very calm, and after saying a lot of words, she carried an empty wine jar and staggered out. Xie Jingxing sent her back to the room and instructed Jing Zhiguyu to take good care of her. Jing Zhiguyu jumped in shock and said softly, the body had just recovered, and why did one drink so much wine? One fear that it is not good for the injury. Xie Jingxing glanced at her before turning to leave the room. As he walked in the courtyard, the summer breeze blew on his face and sobered up a little. But he originally drank very little, and at this moment his mind was as clear as a mirror. In fact, it was not as calm as it looked on the surface. Shun Miao's words were like a thunderbolt striking his heart, and in that instant, some things that were puzzling in the past became clear. But Shun Miao's words were too shocking and almost had the title of supernatural powers. He had never believed in ghosts and deities. He did not believe in ghosts and deities, but believed in Shun Miao. Xie Jingxing was very clear about Shun Miao as a person. If one really wanted to deceive a person, naturally one would be full of lies with a calm expression. Ever since Xie Jingxing got to know Shun Miao in Mingqi, he saw she dealt with the second and third household of the Shun family. Towards Song Zaiqing and towards Jing Chu-Chu, she would always smile and give people a stab. She would scheme in her heart, but her face would always be warm and amiable. However, when she was hesitant, it was instead true. The words that she said today had been suppressed in her heart for a long time, else she would not reveal such a relieved expression after saying it. But Xie Jingxing could roughly feel the apprehension in her heart, so he maintained a calm appearance even though his heart was already in a stormy sea. If the things in Shun Miao's dream really happened, then it would really not be a happy dream. Once he thought that Shun Miao ended up following Fu Xiu Yi and even ended up in such a miserable state because of Fu Xiu Yi, Xie Jingxing could not restrain his anger. It had rained the day before yesterday, and when the green boots stepped on the puddles on the ground, there was a rustling sound. Xie Jingxing stood still and said, Tai Yi. Tai Yi appeared in response. Check if Yi Mei's siblings have any connection with Ming Qi. He said, if everything in Shun Miao's dream was true, then this Yi Mei was Shun Miao's enemy. But from Ming Qi to the Great Liang, this point did not match up. It was just that now thinking about it, why did Shun Miao show such hostility towards Yi Mei and her brother the first time they met? Now, one could understand. Tai, he was a little surprised, but he still lowered his head and agreed. His thoughts were a mess. He frowned and looked at the crescent moon in the sky. He couldn't tell what he was feeling, so he went back to the courtyard to play with the tiger cub. Jiao Jiao had not seen her master for a long time, and when she saw him coming, she was overjoyed and jumped up to play with him. Xie Jingxing absent-mindedly played with the tiger cub for a while, and when he saw that it was getting late and the tiger cub started to doze off, he then returned to the house. But he was still not sleepy. He walked to the middle of the room, took off his robe, and was about to sit for a while when he suddenly felt something strange. Raising his eyes to look at the bed, he saw that there was a big bump on the bed, and there seemed to be shallow, breathing sounds. He frowned and walked over to lift the quilt. Suddenly he was startled and then said in amusement, "What are you doing?" On the bed, Shun Miao was wrapped in his quilt and hugging a pillow in her arms as she stared at him. Previously, she had been calm, as if she had not been drunk at all. Now that she had finally regained her senses, the alcohol had gotten to her head. Her fair face had turned bright red, and her pair of clear eyes were finally covered with a layer of water. She said, "I am offering myself as a pillow." Chapter 10:12. Xie Jingxing almost thought that he had heard wrongly and said, "What did you say?" Consort Li once told me that if one wants to obtain a person's heart or admire a person, one must recommend oneself to sleep on the bed. Between males and females, the pleasure of fish and water is a matter of course. I have never enjoyed before, and I think that you also have not, so I came to recommend myself to sleep on the bed. When Xie Jingxing heard her shocking words, his face flushed red, and he stared at Shun Miao, as if he did not know how to react. Finally he said, "What nonsense are you saying?" He did not know who the consort Li that she was talking about was, but thinking about the dream that Shun Miao had, Xie Jingxing thought incredulously that it could not be one of her sisters in the inner palace. Shun Miao sat on the couch and was drunk, but she still had to put on a dignified air and said, "I want to discuss with you." Xie Jingxing quickly walked to the table and poured a cup of herbal tea for himself. After drinking a mouthful of the herbal tea, the depression in his heart was slightly appeased. Shun Miao's completely different temperament when she was drunk was really unbearable. But to be able to say the words pleasure of fish and water, what was she thinking? He said, "I am not a person who takes advantage of others." After a long time, he did not hear any movements. Xie Jingxing felt that it was somewhat strange and could not help but turn back to take a look, but he spat out a mouthful of tea. Shun Miao was rather clever, and one did not know why her outer robe was gone, and she was wearing a doo-doo. She said aggrievedly, "Do you think that I am ugly? So you are not willing to touch me?" That large piece of skin was like the white snow in winter, but was more moist than the white snow. It was like milk, but was more sparkling than milk. In addition to her disheveled hair, it made her cute little face and hazy eyes. It was really a feast for the eyes. Xie Jingxing quickly went over and covered her with a blanket in a flurry. "You are really very sick." Shun Miao said plausibly, "You and I are husband and wife. What is wrong with the consummation?" Xie Jingxing took a deep breath and avoided the other's misty eyes. "Your injuries are not completely healed. Let's talk about it another day." Shun Miao was puzzled. "Did you not say 2 months later? I saw that the date has long arrived." Xie Jingxing almost collapsed. He emphasized, "I'm not someone who takes advantage of others. What kind of person do you think I am?" "I know." Shun Miao nodded her head. "I am here to fulfill your wish." Xie Jingxing, "Be good. It's too late now. Let's talk about it another day." Xie Jingxing tucked her in and turned to leave. He was afraid that if he stayed any longer, he would not be able to hold it in. At the end of the day, he was a hot-blooded young man who was in the prime of his life. With a beauty in his arms, and a beloved woman at that, it would be strange if he did not have any reaction. But he did not want to take advantage of Shun Miao when she was drunk. He respected Shun Miao, so he was not willing to use such a method. But just as he stood up, his sleeve was pulled by Shun Miao, and the blanket that he had just tucked in slid down. Shun Miao simply half-knelt on the couch, but was a head shorter than Xie Jingxing. She was a little anxious and hugged Xie Jingxing's neck. No, Xie Jingxing. With a soft and fragrant jade in his arms, he could almost feel the other party's exquisite and delicate body. There was a faint female fragrance coming from Shun Miao's body. He obviously did not drink a lot of wine, but at this moment he felt that his entire body was hot, as if the strong alcohol had gone to his head and his rationality was gradually fading. "It is today. After today, I will regret it," she said in all seriousness, but one did not know if she was really drunk or pretending to be drunk. Chapter 10:13. When Xie Jingxing heard it, he paused his action of pushing her down and glanced at her. "Renege?" Shun Miao seemed to feel a little dizzy. This kind of kneeling posture made her somewhat uncomfortable, so she shook her head and looked at Xie Jingxing carefully before her lips hooked up into a smile. She said, "Ben Gong feel that you are very beautiful, and it is your fortune to fancy you. Is it not good to follow Ben Gong?" Xie Jingxing, "Here it comes again. Here it comes again." Xie Jingxing vaguely remembered a few years ago in the manor, when Shun Miao was drunk and treated him as Xiao Yu and forcefully kissed him. Now that time had passed, the scene in front of him was unusually familiar. His voice suddenly carried a tinge of danger. "Follow you?" Shun Miao nodded her head and moved closer to his ear to speak mysteriously. "Ensure that you will be rich and glorious for a lifetime." Xie Jingxing laughed. In fact, in Shun Miao's drunken state, there was a bit of naivety that only a young female would have, like an unripened fruit. It cannot be said to be amorous, and the words she spoke simply made one speechless. But her every move was a fatal seduction to him. The seductive eyes of those peerless beauties could not compare to her naive hug. "If you're not willing, Ben Gong will go and find other people. If you miss Ben Gong, you will regret it for the rest of your life." Shun Miao threatened him. Xie Jingxing said, "Still want to find other people? And?" He suddenly fell forward. Shun Miao was originally holding onto his neck, but now she was pressed down by his body. Xie Jingxing smiled gently and leaned over to her ear to whisper, "You, this Empress, are really arrogant. Want me to serve you and still think of other men? I'm not very happy. Do you want to be punished?" Shun Miao struggled to free a hand and took out a booklet-like thing from under the bed and looked at him with bright eyes. "Look at this." Xie Jingxing was surprised for a moment and took a look. His expression instantly became very interesting, and his tone was restrained as he said, "Where did you get this from?" Shun Miao's neck shrank. "Mother gave it to me. I have said before that I want to discuss with you." Xie Jingxing was startled for a moment before gently smiling. "Discuss?" Shun Miao's head nodded like a chicken pecking rice. "This subject will naturally serve your highness until your body and mind are comfortable." He spoke meaningfully, but his eyes suddenly became as dangerous as a wolf's. He asked, "Empress, will you really not regret it?" "You'll regret it for the rest of your life if you miss this consort," she muttered. Xie Jingxing did not speak anymore, and with a wave of his sleeves, the candle in the room was extinguished. His deep voice came from the darkness. "You're right. If I missed you, I would regret it for the rest of my life." The sun was high up in the sky. Even with the shade of the trees, the summer sun still managed to shine through the gaps between the branches and leaves and onto the ground, reflecting a small patch of golden mottled light. Birds were chirping on the branches. Their cool chirps were filled with joy. Shun Miao felt a splitting headache and subconsciously turned over, but felt that there seemed to be something blocking in front of her. He opened his eyes in a daze and was immediately stunned. She lay in the man's arms, her hands still tightly wrapped around his waist. As he looked up, he saw a handsome face with a pair of peach blossom eyes that seemed to be smiling, yet not smiling. It was a smile that contained the smile of a sales promotion. Shun Miao's heart exploded. What happened last night? How come she did not remember anything? She subconsciously wanted to sit up, but felt that her entire body was sore. It was so painful that she sucked in a breath of cold air. The quilt that was tucked around her naturally slid down, revealing some obvious traces. Chapter 10:14. Shun Miao? The clothes were scattered on the floor, and the wine bowls were piled up on the table, filling the room with a gentle atmosphere. No matter how slow she was, she would be able to guess what had happened. "Awake!" Xie Jingxing raised his brows. Shun Miao tried her best to restore her calm expression, but no matter how she pretended, there was a hint of panic. When this panic fell into Xie Jingxing's eyes, it made him not know whether to laugh or cry. He said, "You were very brave last night. Why are you afraid now?" Shun Miao's heart quivered. Once she was drunk, she would not remember anything, and her memory was clearer than a piece of white paper. The memories before she was drunk were still at the time when she was talking about the past with Xie Jingxing. Because she thought about it, she felt that it was the easiest to believe it when she explained it with a dream. Otherwise, for no reason, no matter how real it was, to say that one was resurrected from the dead, it would be ridiculous. She drank some wine to boost her courage, and remembered that Xie Jingxing seemed to believe her words and did not have any other feelings towards her. But why did they sleep on the same bed? Xie Jingxing swept a glance at her confused look and said leisurely, "Do you know what you did last night?" Shen Miao did not dare to look at him and looked at the bedding calmly. "What else can I do?" "Sleep. You slept with me," Xie Jingxing said. "Want me to serve you well?" Shen Miao almost choked on her own saliva. That was her, the elegant and virtuous Empress Shun, who sat in the 6 palaces? Xie Jingxing must be lying to her. How could there be such a shameless and promiscuous matter? Xie Jingxing said, "You said that if I follow you, you will carry me for a lifetime of glory and riches and have a limitless future." Shun Miao said, "There's no need to take drunk words seriously." Moreover, she changed the topic. "How do I know if you're lying to me? It is impossible for me to say such words." She might as well turn hostile. Xie Jingxing was not in a hurry and calmly took out a booklet-like thing from under the pillow and flipped through it before saying, "Yes, you also took the thing that your mother gave you and wanted to discuss it with me so that I can dispel your doubts. Do you still remember?" He swept the booklet in front of Shun Miao. Shun Miao only took a glance, but when she saw it clearly, she wanted to vomit blood in her heart. Could it be? All of these were available. This was given to her by Luo Shui Yin before she got married. It taught her, the secrets of the boudoir. This thing was kept by her, so it was impossible for Xie Jingxing to find it. In other words, she must have taken the initiative to dig it out and give it to Xie Jingxing. Then what else did she do to Xie Jingxing before? Did she really want Xie Jingxing to serve her well? Shun Miao felt that it was nothing more than being struck by lightning. Xie Jingxing seemed to think that she was not embarrassed enough and lightly said, "Last night, you dragged me to discuss it, and I only managed to discuss the first few pages. I thought that there is no need to be impatient for a long time, but you're so thirsty for talents. I must try this extremely difficult position. Stop." Shun Miao quickly interrupted his words, but her face was already red from embarrassment as she said, "Drinking is a hindrance. You don't know how to stop me." "How would I dare?" Xie Jingxing made an expression of being wronged. "If I do not agree, you will chop off my head." Shun Miao, she felt that it was really too embarrassing. Thinking of her coyly, seducing Xie Jingxing. Perhaps all the face that she had accumulated in both her previous and previous lifetimes would be thrown away cleanly. Xie Jingxing, however, seemed to be in a very good mood as he looked at her with a smile. "You still told me that you still want to discuss it tonight. It is not necessary for tonight." Shun Miao quickly interrupted his words and wanted to jump out of the bed to run out. But she was pulled back by Xie Jingxing and was pulled into his embrace. He looked down at Shun Miao, and the lazy smile on his face disappeared and was replaced with a serious expression. Chapter 10:15. He frowned and asked, "You regret it?" Shun Miao was startled. Xie Jingxing's eyes were extremely good-looking, and sometimes Shun Miao would find it strange. For a grown man, why did his eyes look so good? It was as if there was infinite affection. So when they were in Ming Qi's Ding capital, there was always a lingering affection. However, he himself was indifferent. This kind of man was too dangerous, so one must not provoke him. Falling in love with this kind of man was definitely a calamity for a female, but to be loved by this kind of man, it was probably the fortune of a lifetime. He understood respect and had selfish motives, but was also overbearing and adorable. At this moment, he was staring at Shun Miao seriously. In that naturally arrogant and haughty gaze, there was some cautiousness, and that cautiousness would make one feel that one was placed on the letter by him, was protected by him from harm, and was the most important person to him. Shun Miao's gaze landed on the red line, on Xie Jingxing's hand. He said that he disliked it, but at the end he did not take it off. Shun Miao raised her head and said honestly, "No regrets." She only felt a little shy. Xie Jingxing's eyes brightened up. She said, "Since it is done, what is there to regret? It is not like it was done by others." At the end, she was still avoiding Xie Jingxing's gaze. Xie Jingxing pulled her head over and forced her to look at him. "Really?" Shun Miao said, "Really?" Xie Jingxing stared at her for a long time, and Shun Miao felt more embarrassed. She wanted to run but was pulled over by Xie Jingxing. "Let me see." "See what?" "Last night you refused to stop no matter what. and I did not have time to look at your wound. Even though it is a superficial wound, one must look carefully." He pulled Shin Miao into his embrace. Shin Miao saw that he was only wearing his inner clothes and revealed a large part of his chest, and felt her face burning as she rejected. "No, no need. I will do it myself." "That cannot be done." As Xie Jingxing spoke, he pulled her onto his body again. Shin Miao was unable to escape anymore. Outside, Jingzhe and Guyu were sweeping the floor while pricking up their ears to listen to the movements inside. However, both of them did not have any martial arts skills, and with a door separating them, they were unable to hear anything. Song Yang squatted in front of the door, playing with the birds in the birdcage as he said, "You two have been sweeping here for 2 hours. If you keep sweeping, the stone slabs at the door will be swept through." Jingzhe and Guyu were surprised for a moment and stopped what they were doing. Jingzhe looked at Song Yang and wanted to ask, but felt that this question was too difficult to ask, so her face turned red and refused to speak. Song Yang, on the other hand, was much more thick-skinned than her. With one look, he knew what she wanted to ask. He waved his hand and said, "Don't worry, everything went smoothly." Even though Jingzhe and Guyu were shy, they still gave a sigh of relief at the same time. Jingzhe threw a proud look at Guyu, but Guyu only gave her a rebuking look. Shin Miao was drunk last night, and when Jingzhe and Guyu were tidying up the room, they coincidentally took away the booklet that Luo Shui Yin gave Shin Miao. Shin Miao asked what was that booklet, and Jingzhe suddenly had an idea. She thought that every time Shin Miao was drunk, she did not know what she had done and had the intention to matchmake her own mistress and Xie Jingxing. At the beginning, when Shin Miao was married, Luo Shui Yin had repeatedly exhorted that these two maids must always admonish Shin Miao. In the end, after being married for so long, they did not even consummate the marriage. Seeing that both of them had a good relationship, Jingzhe thought that it was not that her own young lady did not understand, but this Prince Rue was also ignorant. She had the intention to add fuel to the fire. Chapter 10:16. Thus, she simply took advantage of Shin Miao being drunk to guide her. Only His Highness the Prince of First Rank can help foreign with the things on this booklet. Now thinking about it, Jingzhe felt that her expression at that time was no different from that brothel's procuress. Shin Miao was drunk and did not understand at all, so she took the booklet and left. Even if Guyu wanted to stop them, it was too late and could only follow behind. The two maids were nervous and uneasy, and after guarding outside for the whole night, their eyes had turned black, but Shin Miao did not come out from Xie Jingxing's room. Now hearing Song Yang's words, both of them gave a sigh of relief in their hearts. They felt that they had done a good deed. No matter how ignorant their young lady and son-in-law were, after hearing such matters, they would have tasted it, and after 2 or 3 times, practice makes perfect. Just as they were thinking about it, Uncle Tang walked out from the back, and when he saw the 3 of them, he first roared at Song Yang. "What are you doing guarding here so early in the morning? Still not leaving?" He then smiled at Jingzhe and Guyu. "Why do you look like you are not in a good mood?" Jingzhe and Guyu were brought over by Shan Miao. Thus Uncle Tang could not be as impolite as when he taught Song Yang a lesson. When Song Yang saw such differential treatment, he snorted and left. Jingzhe and Guyu could not stay for long, and quickly slipped away after saying a few words to Uncle Tang. Uncle Tang stood alone in front of Xie Jingxing's door, and after everyone had left, he suddenly laughed to himself. After laughing foolishly for a while, he seemed to have thought of something and said to himself, "Need to boil some tonic." He then left in a hurry. Most likely the MOU army was well aware of the happy events that happened in the residence of Prince Rue, that everyone had a tacit understanding. But Star Anise and Fennel did not know about it. They were temporarily taking care of Pei Lang. Pei Lang's injuries were much more serious than Shin Miao's. Even though he managed to keep his life, but that knife wound was deep into the bones, so Gao Yang did not dare to take it lightly. Star Anise and Fennel looked at Pei Lang, so that if there was anything wrong, they could look for Gao Yang to take a look. Pei Lang always woke up a few times in the night, but the time was very short, and he would fall asleep again after a while. Star Anise and Fennel were so busy that they had no way of knowing what was going on with Shan Miao and Xie Jingxing. It was almost noon when Fennel came in with a bowl of gruel. Pei Lang couldn't eat anything else due to his injuries. As soon as he entered the room, he saw Pei Lang sitting in front of the window, staring at the branches in a daze. "Young Master Pei?" Fennel was taken aback. She walked over happily and placed the bowl of porridge aside. "You're finally awake." Pei Lang slowly turned his head and looked at her. He seemed to have just recognized that she was a servant of Rui Wang Fu and said, "Wang Fei should also wake up." Fennel was a little curious as to why Pei Lang would use such a firm tone, but she still said, "I woke up yesterday. Madam is not seriously injured, but you are seriously injured. It's all thanks to you that you blocked the knife for Madam and saved her life." Pei Lang lowered his head and seemed to laugh. He said in a low voice, "Help? It's clear that I owe her." Fennel did not hear Pei Lang's words clearly and asked, "What did you say?" Pei Lang, on the other hand, looked a little absent-minded. He finally remembered. After blocking the knife for Shun Miao at the edge of life and death, he had a dream. That dream was very long and very real, but it made him suddenly see the light. Why did Shun Miao always show hostility toward him? Why did he always feel an inexplicable guilt toward Shun Miao? So it was like this. The abbot in the dream said, sacrificing one's life, that chance to do it again was only a possibility, and perhaps it would be in vain. That abbot also said, if he could do it again, some opportunities would be disrupted, and perhaps he would be in pain because of it. Pei Lang also agreed. He once loved a female, but his love was no different from Fu Xiuyi's coldness. They were both pushing Shun Miao to a dead-end step by step. He sympathized with Shun Miao, but at the same time rationally weighed the pros and cons and abandoned Shun Miao. In one's life, it was actually living by constantly abandoning things. He and Fu Xiu had abandoned Shun Miao. So, in this lifetime, Shun Miao also abandoned them without any hesitation. Unfortunately, it was Xie Jingxing who was lucky. But after thinking about it, it was also expected. But after knowing so much of the cause and effect, he no longer had the face to face Shun Miao. He said that he would accompany and help her, but now thinking about it, it was only because of the guilt from the previous lifetime, and he was repaying it. But he was unable to face his own heart. The complicated entanglement of this marriage caused his heart to be in a mess. It was time to end this mistake. Some thoughts should not have been born from the beginning. Once they were born, it was a mistake. Now it was time for him to cut them off. Fun Xiang said, "Young Master Pei, drink some porridge first. Your body still needs to recuperate. Later, young Master Gao will come and perform acupuncture on you. As long as you wake up and recuperate for a few days, with young Master Gao's medical skills, you will be safe and sound." Pei Lang paused for a moment before saying, "Many thanks. Young Master Pei is too polite." Fun Xiang said, "You saved Furin's life and are the benefactor of the residence of the prince of first rank. Trouble you to bring me a pen and paper." Pei Lang said. His lips were pale and his eyes were dim, but his tone was very firm. Chapter 1017. Shun Miao and Xie Jingxing were reconciled, and the entire Prince Rui residence seemed to heave a sigh of relief. What was a blessing in disguise was that not only did both of them reconcile, they also started to sleep in the same room. This was simply out of everyone's expectations, especially Uncle Tang, who was the happiest. Every day, Xie Jingxing would boil tiger, deer, and bull's penis soup, making Shun Miao speechless every time she saw it. Xie Jingxing began to investigate the Yi family's matters. But what was strange was that Yi Mei's siblings were indeed born and raised in the Great Liang and previously lived in Qin province. So there was no mistake about it. Shun Miao also did not know why it was so, but at the end she could only think that it was her rebirth that inadvertently changed a lot of things. For example, Fu Xiuyi's luck, or the identity of Mei Furin's siblings. But no matter how much it changed, there was one thing that would not change. Yi Mei was her enemy in the past life, and in this life, she entered the Yi family, so the position of their sworn enemy did not change at all. Pei Lang's injuries also gradually got better. Shun Miao went to take a look once, but did not enter the room. She only looked from afar and when she saw that he was able to get down and drink his medicine, she then left. Towards Pei Lang. Shun Miao's feelings were very complicated, but most likely Pei Lang did not know about the matters of the past life. Even though she knew about the matters of the past life, she was unable to face the other party with a peaceful mind. Thus, she could only maintain this kind of distance. Xie Jingxing, however, was very satisfied with this, and said that she was more sensible than in the past, and used this opportunity to reward her. It was as if he wanted to make up for all the rooms that he did not consummate, making Shun Miao unable to lift her spirits these few days, as if a male ghost was plucking her yin to nourish her yang. The situation in Long Yi looked stable, but the whirlpool of disputes was not what others could imagine. After the imperial hunt that Emperor Yong Lu had set up, he started to close the net that was previously set up to deal with the Lu family. The Lu family was busy dealing with the imperial family, and Xie Jingxing was also busier. Naturally, Shin Miao would not be relaxed because there was a letter from Ming Qi's side. Luo Shuiyan's letter to Shun Miao had arrived. There were 2 letters to home. One was from Luo Shuiyan, saying that everything was fine with him, and also exhorted Shin Miao to not swallow any grievances in Long Yi and to write back to tell them. Then he carefully exhorted to treat Xie Jingxing with respect, to support and understand each other. Forget it. He just wanted to ask about the situation at Shun Miao's end. The other letter was written by Shin Xiao. Shin Xiao's letter was different from Luo Shuiyan's. At the beginning, when Shun Miao was married, she had talked to Shin Xiao about some things. Even though it was not clear, it hinted to Shin Xiao to be wary of the imperial family of Ming Qi. The imperial family of Ming Qi was a pot of mud, and what the Shun family had to do was to be wise and protect themselves. No matter what method they used, they had to draw a clear relationship with the imperial family, otherwise they could only be dragged into the mud. If it was necessary, even if they had to abandon the Shun family's integrity, they must first preserve their lives. This time in Shun Xiao's letter, he talked about the situation in Ming Qi. Counting it, Shin Miao had left the Ding capital for more than half a year. The situation in the Ding capital was already on the verge of breaking out, and there would be changes every day, not to mention in half a year. However, the sudden change caught everyone off guard. Emperor Wen Hui was seriously ill. First was his cough, and then his condition worsened, and now it was to the point where he could not attend court. Occasionally, when he attended court, he was listless and would disperse after listening to a few sentences. One did not know why there were rumors in the palace that Emperor Wen Hui was like a dried-up oil lamp and would not be able to last more than a year before he would not be able to live. When Shun Miao saw this line of words, she only laughed. How long could Emperor Wen Hui live for? Was it really just 1 year? Shin Miao did not believe it, as in the previous lifetime Emperor Wen Hui did not die so early. Of course, it was hard to say if there was anything fishy about Emperor Wen Hui's death. The imperial family of Ming Qi was intricate and complicated, and the princes were not as simple as Long Ye's side. If one person ascended the throne, there would be a lot of sacrifices, so what was one imperial father? Chapter 10:18. Shin Xiao mentioned in the letter that Emperor Wen Hui was seriously ill, but one did not know why he made things difficult for his most favored consort Su Xian. Consort Su Xian was demoted to a talented person, and not only that, the entire Su family was also implicated by Emperor Wen Hui, implicating the 2 brothers, Prince Zhou and Prince Jing. These 2 brothers could no longer manage the matters in court, and Shun Xiao did not understand the specific situation. In short, Consort Su Xian, Prince Zhou, and Prince Jing had all fallen out of favor. Prince Zhou and Prince Jing seemed to have fallen into a disadvantageous position in the fight for the throne, whereas Prince Li's faction was unprecedentedly on good terms with Prince Ding. Prince Li's faction was also a powerful faction in the fight for the throne, and Prince Ding, Fu Xiao Yi, had no relationship with them at all, but now they were on good terms. Thinking about it, it was not right. What made one even more suspicious was that in this faction, the original Prince Li actually had the intention to follow Prince Ding's lead. When writing till here, Shunshio's handwriting was somewhat sloppy, and it was obvious that his mood was not calm. Forget it. He then summed it up. Most probably in the current Ding capital, among the original princes, the hottest one was the 9th prince, Fu Xiu-yi, who had no desires. And Fu Xiu-yi's consort mother, Consort Dong Shu, had become emperor when Hui's support. When Emperor Wenhui was seriously ill, the person he doted on was the person closest to him. Some people guessed that looking at this trend, the crown prince would eventually be gone, and Emperor Wenhui would most likely pass the throne to Prince Ding, Fu Xiu-yi. Thus, a large wave of officials switched sides to Fu Xiu-yi's side. No matter if it was because of his own reasons or external factors, no matter how one looked at it, Fu Xiu-yi would become the future crown prince of Mingqi. And Fu Xiu-yi gradually started to deal with the Shun family. The Shin family's military power had previously been taken back by Emperor Wenhui, but Fu Xiu-yi wanted to give Shin Xian new power to let both father and son lead a brand new army. No matter how one looked at it, it was a pit. Fu Xiu-yi had obviously dug a pit for the Shun family to jump into, and if one did not do well, they would fall into Fu Xiu-yi's trap. Shinshio wrote in the letter that the Shun family was using Shun Xian's illness as an excuse to temporarily not take over the military power, but one did not know how long this excuse could be used because Fu Xiu-yi would definitely not only use this one method to deal with the Shin family. But it was fortunate that the Shun family was not without help. Fu Xiu-yi's target was the Feng family, which was Feng and Ning's residence. The Feng family and the Shun family had plans to join hands, and with some of the other officials of Mingqi, it should be enough to protect themselves. But in the end, there was still some bewilderment in her words, as if she felt that the Shun family that had been loyal for a few generations would now end up in a situation where the imperial family was in a confrontation and mutual suspicion. This inevitably made one sigh. After Xin Miao finished reading the letter, she folded it and kept it, feeling somewhat worried. Xie Jingxing took a look with her, and seeing her worried look, he asked, "You are very worried?" Fu Xiu-yi is starting to deal with the Shun family. Shun Miao said in a deep voice, "The speed of his rise is too fast. In less than a year, there is actually no one in the Ding capital who can contend with him. Prince Zhou and Prince Jing were so arrogant in the beginning, but now even consort Su Xian has declined and Prince Li was also subdued by him." Shin Miao said, "His means are not simple." Even though she had long known that Fu Xiu-yi was the emperor of Mingqi in his past lifetime, but in this lifetime there was no Shan family, and he was still able to turn the situation around in a disadvantageous situation. This made Shin Miao feel that the arrangement of the Shun family was somewhat rash. Perhaps she had underestimated the enemy. It is not strange. Xie Jingxing smiled. In order to fight for the throne, he had been preparing for many years. Even though Prince Zhou and Prince Jing had the advantage, they were slower than him. Not to mention Prince Li. Without the support of his mother's family, they could not be compared. But why did he still target the Shin family? Shin Miao frowned. It is reasonable to say that since the Shun family's military power is gone, there would not be any threat to him. For example, the residents of the Marquis of Lineage. He would not start to deal with the residents of the Marquis of Lineage, but would not let go of the Shun family. Fu Xiu-yi would not waste time on meaningless things. Towards the suppression of the Shun family, it was considered as a superfluous move, so why bother? Chapter 1019. Xie Jingxing pondered for a moment before saying, "Perhaps it is because of you." "Me?" Shin Miao looked at him. "You married to the great Liang, and Fu Xiu-yi previously suspected my relationship with you, suspecting that the great Liang was the backing of the Shun family. After returning to Longyi, I also ordered people to pay attention to Fu Xiu-yi's movements and discovered that he was investigating everything about me in the residence of the Marquis of Lineage. Perhaps he knew my identity. Perhaps they misunderstood the relationship between the Shun family and me and thought that the Shun family had already defected to the great Liang or had other plans." He paused before continuing. "Fu Xiu-yi's methods are ruthless, and he has a suspicious nature. Once he senses that something is not right, He will definitely cut the weeds and eliminate the roots. As long as the Shun family makes him feel uneasy, he will spare no effort to eradicate them. I understand that. Shen Miao's eyes were slightly cold. Even at the end of the previous lifetime, did Fu Xiao not clean up the first household neatly because of the Shun family's military power? But you don't have to worry. Xie Jingxing pinched her face. I have arranged people in the Ding capital. No matter what, they have the ability to protect your family's safety. You have long-arranged people? Shen Miao asked. Why not tell me earlier? Xie Jingxing said. Is there a need to claim credit for this kind of matter? That is also my family. Without proper arrangements, how can I let them stay in the Ding capital? When Shun Miao heard Xie Jingxing say, that is also my family, her heart was as sweet as eating honey, and there was a smile in her eyes as she said, speaking of which, I did not think that the Feng family would actually join hands with eldest brother. In the beginning, in order to prevent Feng and Ning from repeating the mistakes of the past lifetime, she also specially took care of Xin Xiao to help look after the Feng family. But one did not know when they had such a friendship. But from this, it seemed that Feng and Ning would not be like the previous lifetime, marrying that Biao older brother who was golden on the outside but rotten on the inside. But there is one thing that I wanted to tell you. Xie Jingxing's face suddenly became serious. Fu Xiao and the Emperor of Qin State have a secret relationship. Shen Miao was startled for a moment before asking, do you need to borrow troops? Speaking of this matter, Shen Miao recalled the time when she was a hostage in the Qin country for 5 years. Now, that Fu Xiao did not have a wife. Could it be that he was looking for other hostages? It could be possible that they had reached some private agreements, most likely to be ceding land. Xie Jingxing said. Shen Miao frowned. Is it to help him fight for the throne? But borrowing the power of a foreign country to fight for the throne, there will be many implications in the future. Fu Xiao, you will not do this. Xie Jingxing's eyes sank and said, to deal with the Great Liang. Shen Miao looked at him. They want to deal with the Great Liang? That's crazy. Even though Ming Qi and the Qin country's combined strength was much higher than before, but the Great Liang's strength was placed in front of everyone. At least it would be a situation where both sides would suffer. They had lived in harmony for so many years, so why would they take the initiative to start a fight? This is not something that can be tolerated. Xie Jingxing laughed. Moreover, Long Yi is currently in chaos because of the Liu and Yi families. They will not let go of this opportunity. Shen Miao carefully thought about Xie Jingxing's words for a while and said, what you said is right. Sooner or later, there will be such a day. It was just that to start a war now, it might not be a good opportunity for the Great Liang. You don't have to worry. Xie Jingxing rubbed her head. Leave these to me. I am also the Wang Fei of the residence of Prince Rui. Shen Miao glared at him and was very dissatisfied with his words. Xie Jingxing looked at her unruffled. Oh, from an empress to a Wang Fei, don't you find yourself at a disadvantage? The meal has already been eaten, so what is the point of saying these now? Shen Miao snorted. Xie Jingxing still wanted to speak, but Fennel Xiang knocked on the door and motioned her to come in. Fennel Xiang looked at Shen Miao and then looked at Xie Jingxing with a tangled expression. Chapter 10:20. Do you have anything to say to me? Shen Miao looked at her inexplicably. If there is something, just say it directly. She did not care about Xie Jingxing's presence. Fen Xiang said, this afternoon young Master Pei said that he wanted to go out for a walk. Your servants remembered that young Master Gao also said that young Master Pei should go out for a walk. As long as he doesn't go too far, it will be fine. Gentleman Pei wanted to be alone, so this servant did not think much. Normally, he would only walk for a while at the door, but today he did not return even when it was dark. Shen Miao frowned. Something happened? Pei Lang did not have any martial arts, and if he met with any danger, he would not have any ability to protect himself. This servant also thought so. Fennel said, but Ba Jiao found this on the table in Gentleman Pei's room. She took out a letter from her sleeves and handed it to Shen Miao before saying, the room is missing some of Gentleman Pei's clothes and valuables. If this servant did not guess wrongly. Gentleman Pei should have left. Just as Shun Miao was about to open the letter, she paused. Xie Jingxing's expression also changed slightly. Did he say anything before he left? Shun Miao asked Fennel. He did not say anything. As usual, he even said that today's weather was good. Fennel said. Shun Miao was somewhat dazed. Xie Jingxing said, Look at what is written in the letter. He was about to get up and leave when Shun Miao grabbed his sleeve. Xie Jingxing turned back and Shun Miao said, Read it together. His footsteps paused, and after thinking about it, he sat down again, but there was a trace of smile on his lips. Opening the letter, what entered one's eyes was Pei Lang's words. Pei Lang's words were as clear as he was and had the elegance of those famous scholars. He looked like that himself, but it was hard to imagine that such a romantic and refined person would be involved in the struggle for power in his previous life. The beginning of the letter said that after staying in the residence of Prince Rue for such a long time, he had given the residents a lot of trouble and many thanks to both husband and wife for taking him in. He also hoped that Shun Miao would keep her promise and settle Lu Ying for the rest of her life. Pei Lang wrote that even though he followed Shun Miao to Long Yi previously, it was only an expedient measure. It was because of Fu Xiao Yi that he had no choice but to hide in Long Yi. But there were still many inconveniences in staying in Prince Rue's residence. He had his own plans and was prepared to travel around in his lifetime to increase his knowledge. So he left without saying goodbye. Due to the fact that Shun Miao and Shun Miao previously had the friendship of teacher and student, later on they had some friendship. During the time in the residence of Prince Ding, he understood some matters of Prince Ding and knew that Shun Miao seemed to be wary of Prince Ding. So he arranged some things for Shun Miao, hoping that it would be useful in the future. After handing over the things in this letter to Shun Miao, their relationship was considered to be cleared. No one owes anyone anything, Pei Lang wrote. He did not know if he would have the chance to meet her again in this life, so he could only say goodbye. Pei Lang's letter was very simple, and there was almost nothing special about it. One did not know if it was to draw a line between him and Shun Miao, but the words were filled with alienation and politeness. The refined and courteous look was like he had returned to the time when he was a teacher and student in Guang Wentang. The other piece of paper in the letter was densely packed with records of some of Fu Xiaoyi's matters. It was about his confidants, some of his plans, some of his future steps, the people that he wanted to rope in, and the people that he wanted to bring down. Xie Jingxing originally followed Shun Miao and casually swept a glance over that piece of paper. But when he saw the back, his expression could not help but become serious. This letter recorded everything about Fu Xiaoyi in great detail. In this way, Fu Xiaoyi seemed to have no secrets in front of them, and everything was exposed. With this, to deal with Fu Xiaoyi, it was like grabbing the snake's weak point, and every step was like a drill to the heart. Chapter 10:21. Xie Jingxing said, How could he know so much? Even if Pei Lang was a spy by Fu Xiaoyi's side, and Fu Xiaoyi trusted him previously, it was not possible for him to trust to this extent. And these chess pieces that Fu Xiaoyi had hidden in various places were all written out by Pei Lang. It was as if he was a trusted general that had followed him for many years and knew his master's matters like the back of his hand. That was why he was so detailed. Shun Miao's fingertips were somewhat trembling. Some of the things in here clearly happened a few years later. Even now, Fu Xiaoyi did not know those people. So how would Pei Lang know? Unless Pei Lang also had the memories of the past lifetime. Thus he already knew about Fu Xiaoyi's future confidant and chess pieces and future plans. When did Pei Lang know about it? It was obvious that he did not understand anything previously. Could it be? Shun Miao's heart moved. She was on Xie Jingxing's birthday and dreamt of the past lifetime because of the assassination. Could be the same for Pei Lang. She looked at the fennel. What is different about Gentleman Pei these days? Different places? The fennel carefully replied. There seems to be no difference, just that he often sat there in a daze, not knowing what he was thinking about. But Gentleman Pei's character was quiet previously, so it should be during the period of recuperation. Shen Miao could not make up her mind and wanted to ask if Pei Lang knew about the matters of the past lifetime. Pei Lang was the person that followed Fu Xiao for the longest time, so naturally he understood Fu Xiao the deepest. But just as he wanted to speak, he stopped. So what about it? If Pei Lang really recalled the past lifetime, just like how Shen Miao was unable to face Pei Lang would also be unable to face her. The two of them were not considered as fated enemies, nor were they close friends. There was a blood debt that was personally paid off. Deep in the palace, one had no choice but to commit a mistake. One could not act as if nothing had happened, and one could not clearly explain it. Xie Jingxing saw her uncertain expression and asked, "Do you need me to order people to capture him back?" Shen Miao recovered to her senses and said, "No need. Since he wants to live his own life, then let him go." Meeting was better than not meeting, so it was good for Pei Lang to leave like this. She pinched that piece of paper, and there was a hint of sternness in her eyes. When Xie Jingxing saw it, he said, "It is written here. It's true." Shen Miao said, "One have to hand this to eldest brother. We're not in the Ding capital, and it would not be easy to move around with this. Leave it to big brother and father. Big brother and father will see to it. With this, at least the Shun family has another bargaining chip." After that, he was in a difficult position, but this thing is very valuable and must be sent back to Ming Qi. If it is robbed on the way, let the MOU army go. Xie Jingxing said indifferently. The MOU army had been sending letters for so many years and had never been intercepted before. Shen Miao's heart was slightly at ease, but before she could speak, Pei Lang's letter was taken away by Xie Jingxing. Xie Jingxing nonchalantly threw the letter away and said, "It is too late. Rest." "How is it late?" Shen Miao said curiously. "The sky just turned dark. Although we don't have to get Mr. Pei back, we have to ensure his safety. He was stabbed for no reason that day. If he gets targeted again..." Before the words were finished, Shen Miao was already carried up by Xie Jingxing. He threw Shen Miao on the bed and leaned close to her before saying, "Try to care about Pei Lang again." Shen Miao, in the palace. In the imperial garden, the lotus flowers were in full bloom in the summer, and the dark green lotus leaves almost covered the pond. Empress Xianda was sitting in the pavilion. Even though there was no moon today, there were stars, the cool breeze was blowing, and the water was sparkling. It was a good scenery. She ordered people to brew scented tea and to drink a small cup in the summer. It was very comfortable. Chapter 10:22. Tao Gugu stood behind her and smiled, commenting, "The lotus flowers are blooming well this year." Empress Xianda glanced and smiled, replying, "Last year, I had people change the seeds. This year, it is much more prosperous." She added, "The summer is also cool." Just as she spoke, she saw someone pass by from afar. She seemed to see Empress Xianda and the others. Her movements paused slightly. She turned and walked towards the pavilion. When she came closer, she saw clearly that this person wasn't anyone else but Jing Fei. Compared to Jing Fei's arrogant and domineering appearance in the past, Jing Fei looked much more disheveled today. Or maybe it shouldn't be said today. Recently, Jing Fei's condition hadn't been good. She didn't seem to be in a mood to take care of her clothing. Her usually beautiful face showed signs of tiredness. But when she saw Empress Xianda, the tiredness instantly turned to hatred. She said, "I saw someone here from afar and was wondering who was in such a good mood." It was the Empress. Empress Xianda smiled non-committally and said, "Ben Gong is drinking tea here. Does Jing Fei want to drink a cup?" Jing Fei smiled coldly at her and said, "Jie is in the mood to drink tea, but Mimi is not." Emperor Yonglu started to suppress the Lu family. The people in the Hogong didn't understand the court, but they could see the emperor's attitude. The concubine that had been the most favored now couldn't move the emperor even if she cried and begged. The meaning behind this was very deep. Ben Gong doesn't care if Jing Fei is in the mood or not. Empress Xianda smiled and continued to pour tea. "The tea will always be here." Jing Fei was so angry she was trembling. Lu Foreign had come to the palace to find her, and said that Emperor Yongliu had acted against the Liu family. She also said that she had Emperor Yongli's favor but couldn't even be moved by a pillow breeze. She wanted her to find out what Emperor Yongliu was thinking. If necessary, it was possible to ask for mercy. But Jing Fei did it, but it was useless. In reality, after so many years, Emperor Yongliu had pampered her. Even in this Hogong, Empress Yin had to be courteous to her. No matter how arrogant she would always be safe in the end. But she had never changed Emperor Yongli's mind. Sometimes, she felt that Emperor Yongliu seemed to have seen everything and knew that she was purposely trying to please him. Sometimes, Jing Fei felt slightly ashamed. But other times, she felt that Emperor Yongliu really did pamper her. Now that the Liu family was in trouble and needed her daughter's help, Jing Fei went to find Emperor Yongliu. Emperor Yongli's attitude was cold. Jing Fei's life had been smooth sailing and she had never suffered any hardship. When she entered the palace, with the Liu family's background, she easily rose to the position of a consort. Now that the Liu family was in trouble, she also suffered. She realized that in all these years, other than making a scene in the palace and making enemies, she had done nothing else. In contrast, Empress Xianda, who she had always looked down on, was sitting in the pavilion leisurely drinking tea. Jing Fei's heart was filled with anger. She thought, Emperor Yongliu did not love Empress Xianda, but Empress Xianda was respected by everyone because of her title as Empress. This was too unfair. If Empress Xianda was not in the way, she would have become the Empress. Emperor Yongliu would not dare to underestimate the Liu family. She would not have such a headache now. Hatred instantly formed in Jing Fei's heart. Coincidentally, she saw Empress Xianda sitting in the pavilion. The side of the pavilion near the lake had a flight of stairs. It was convenient to feed the fish. It was very elegant, but it was slightly dangerous. Jing Fei silently walked a few steps closer to Empress Xianda and said, Jie has brewed tea for so many years and naturally knows the principles of brewing tea. But Mimi does not like drinking tea. Tea is bitter and makes people uncomfortable. What is the point of brewing it? Just as she finished speaking, she gave an ayah and pretended to sprain her ankle as she leaned against Empress Xianda. Empress Xianda was sitting on the side facing the water. When she leaned like that, Empress Xianda would naturally be knocked into the water. Who was Empress Xianda? Jing Fei was dumb, but Empress Xianda wasn't dumb. She didn't care about this little trick and had been on her guard. Seeing Jing Fei lean over, she instantly took a step back and coincidentally avoided Jing Fei. She heard a putong, and the water splashed. The palace maid next to Jing Fei gave an ayah in shock. Chapter 10:23. In the deep of the night, the residence of Prince Rue had fallen into a deep sleep. When everything was quiet, suddenly a voice was heard. It was Tai Yi who suddenly had an important matter to report. Normally at this time, Tai Yi would not come and disturb. Shen Miao was in a daze from her sleep when she felt Xie Jingxing get up and leave the door. After a moment, it seemed that he said something to someone outside, and there was the sound of clothes being worn in the room. She opened her eyes and saw Xie Jingxing standing in front of the desk to wear his clothes. Looking outside again, it was the middle of the night, and one did not know why he looked like he was going out at this time. "What's the matter?" she asked. Xie Jingxing saw that she was awake and said, "Something happened in the palace. I will enter the palace to take a look. Sleep first, and do not need to wait for me." Hearing that, Shen Miao's drowsiness was mostly dispersed. Since Xie Jingxing had to go out in the middle of the night, it could be seen that the matter was very serious, and it was a matter in the palace. She said, "What matter is it? Is it very serious?" The Empress pushed Lu Jing into the pond. Xie Jingxing said as he put on his outer robe, "The specific matter cannot be said clearly in a short time." Shen Miao first breathed a sigh of relief. Xie Jingxing ran into the palace in the middle of the night, and she thought that there were assassins in the palace. Hearing this, she was reassured, but when she thought about it, she asked in surprise, why would the Empress push Jing Fei into the pond? Shen Miao had rarely seen Empress Xianda and had seen Consort Jing. Facing a person like Consort Jing, Empress Sienda was disdainful to fight with her, and Empress Sienda was not an impulsive person. If it was said that Consort Jing pushed Empress Sienda into the pond, Shun Miao would believe it, but if it was said that Empress Sienda did it, Shun Miao would not believe it. The Lu family are now in the palace. Xie Jingxing said, "They like to be pestering. I will go and take a look first." Shun Miao quickly got up. "I will also go. It is too late." Xie Jingxing did not agree. "You sleep first. Nothing will happen." Shun Miao shook her head. "Since I have already instructed you to enter the palace, it would not be a simple matter. Anyway, I cannot sleep, and if you leave me alone in the residence, my imagination would run wild. It will be better to go with you and know what is going on. Perhaps I can be of help." Xie Jingxing thought about it and said, "Never mind. I am not at ease leaving you here alone. Let's go." Shun Miao quickly got up and changed her clothes. Because it was too late at this time, the servants were all resting, so Xie Jingxing and Shun Miao only brought Tai Yi and Song Yang along. Both of them rode the carriage on the streets of Long Yi, and there was not a single person on the streets. Xie Jingxing's expression was somewhat cold, and Shun Miao was also thinking seriously in her mind. Even if Empress Xianda really pushed Consort Jing, it would not be worthwhile to call Xie Jingxing to the palace in the middle of the night, to say something unpleasant. Even if Consort Jing died because of this, it would be a fight between the women in the inner palace, and it would be able to send the Lu family away. Moreover, now that Emperor Yong Lu and the Lu family had almost reached the point of falling out, why would make a big fuss just to deal with the Lu family? When Shun Miao was in Mingqi, she had seen such palace concubines who would make things difficult for each other because of jealousy. Consort Jing was pushed into the pond by Empress Xianda, and it was the most shoddy framing. So why would Xie Jingxing also make a trip to the palace? Shun Miao always felt that the matter was not that simple. However, Tai Yi said that the person from the palace who came to deliver the imperial edict was not very clear, so no one knew what the specific situation was. Both of them had their own thoughts, and in the blink of an eye, they arrived at the palace doors. At the palace doors was Emperor Yong Li's Dang Gonggong. When he saw Xie Jingxing, he was happy, but was surprised for a moment when he saw Shun Miao jumping down from the carriage. However, he did not worry about it and smiled. "Your Highness Prince of First Rank has finally arrived. His Majesty is waiting for you in the palace." Chapter 10:24. Xie Jingxing let Dang Gonggong walk in front, while Shun Miao followed behind. After thinking for a while, she asked Dang Gonggong, "Dang Gonggong, is the Empress well now?" "The Empress is fine. Many thanks to Qin Wang Fei's concern." Dang Gonggong smiled. Shun Miao's eyes moved slightly. The Empress was fine, but there was such a big scene. That meant that something happened to that person. Sure enough, when she thought of this, she heard Dang Gonggong said, "But Consort Jing has not woken up at this moment." Xie Jingxing sneered. "What tricks is Lu Jing playing again?" His expression was rather annoyed. Dang Gonggong smiled and did not say anything more, but Shun Miao felt that there was some meaning in that smile. After entering the palace, Dang Gonggong brought the two of them straight to Jinhua Palace. Jinhua Palace was where Consort Jing stayed. It was already midnight, but Jinhua Palace was brightly lit, and there was a group of palace maids kneeling in the hall. With one glance, Shun Miao saw that Emperor Yong Lu and Empress Xianda were also there. Both of them were sitting in the hall. Empress Xianda did not look any different as she was still calm and indifferent, but Emperor Yong Li's face was like frost. Shun Miao and Xie Jingxing walked in hand, and Dang Gonggong quickly reported. When Emperor Yong Lu saw Shun Miao coming, he was slightly surprised, but Empress Xianda stood up and smiled as she walked over to Shun Miao. She held Shun Miao's hand and said intimately, "Previously your body was not well, and one wanted to let you enter the palace to talk. Who knew that so many things happened? One did not think that you would come so late tonight." Shun Miao smiled. "One did not know what happened when your Highness entered the palace, so one followed." Empress Xianda asked her, "Is your body better?" Shun Miao said, "Already recovered. Many thanks to your ladyship's concern." Empress Xianda smiled. Then Ben Gong is relieved. Xie Jingxing looked at Emperor Yonglu and asked with a calm face, Imperial older brother, what happened? Everyone knew that Empress Xianda would definitely not push Consort Jing into the pond. Now that Consort Jing had not woken up and Emperor Yonglu had already started to take action against the Liu family, there was no need to care about the Liu family's face. So why would he summon Xie Jingxing into the palace because of Consort Jing's body? Monarch Yonglu said coldly, the Liu clan just came. Came here. Xie Jingxing frowned and said, when I came in, I did not see the Liu family. The Liu family pestered endlessly and relied on their meritorious deeds to be cocky. Now that Jing Fei had fallen into the water and the Liu family had suffered losses under the hands of Emperor Yonglu, they would definitely take this chance to make a fuss. At the very least, they would not let Empress Xianda go. Now there was not even a shadow of the Liu family. Could it be that the Liu family had already caused trouble on their way here? They aren't afraid that something will happen to Jing Fei. The one who spoke was Empress Xianda. They're just fearless. Shen Miao's heart moved. Fearless? What do these words mean? Just as he was thinking, he saw the imperial physician of the palace walk out of the bedroom. He walked in front of Emperor Yonglu and bowed, replying, Your Majesty, Imperial Consort Jing fell into the water and caught a cold. Luckily, her body is not bad, and the dragon seed in her stomach is still fine. After taking 2 batches of medicine and resting for a while, both mother and child will definitely be safe. Jing Fei was pregnant? Shen Miao and Xie Jingxing were startled at the same time. Subconsciously, Shen Miao looked towards Empress Xianda. Empress Xianda's spring lips slightly raised, and she looked as calm and generous as usual. It was just that Shen Miao felt that there was some ridicule in that smile. Looking at Emperor Yonglu again, his eyes were cold and his face was as deep as water. No matter how one looked at it, it did not look like he was happy. It seemed that Jing Fei had woken up in the room and started to call out, Your Majesty, this Xie wants to see Your Majesty. Xie Jingxing looked at Emperor Yonglu with a smile that was not a smile, but Emperor Yonglu turned his head to look at Empress Xianda. Empress Xianda smiled gently. Your Majesty should also go and see Jing Fei. The child is after all innocent. She then looked towards Xie Jingxing. The emperor will most likely want to speak to you in a while. Wait here for a while. She then said to Shen Miao, after being tossed around for so long, Ben Gong also need to go back and change clothes. Qin Wang Fei should accompany Ben Gong. One fear that one would go crazy in the middle of the night. There is just hot tea in Weiyang Palace. You're tuning in to the Romance Rendezvous YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.